So before moving ahead, the last point that I was just talking about and explaining to you people, it was related to writing effectively or excellently. It doesn't only require a single special skill that makes any person an effective or excellent writer. Rather, the reality is that it requires multiple skills. Then a person can prove oneself as an effective or excellent writer. The next point that I'm going to share with you, there is another myth about that brilliant or excellent story writing or like fiction writing is something which is teachable. Like if we teach literature to students, they can become excellent dramatists, playwright, story writer, storytellers. All of them. It's a myth because there are a number of people, like as I give you my own example, I have been a student of literature for more than 5 years. I studied literature and a lot of literature about English language and English literature. But even then, it's not something which is teachable. Like I'm not in such a position that I can create such a literature by my own. It means, or I have seen, I have met, I am in contact with a number of other people who have not been to a student of literature, like the students of my time or students like me, but they are in such a better position. They have been writing imaginative, fictitious writings and stories excellently well. So it is a myth that it is teachable, although it is quite debatable. Okay? But on the other hand, the reality is that we can just make the people aware of the different styles, the different genres, and the different processes and the use of language to the people without giving a guarantee that these people afterwards become excellent like storytellers, story writers, playwrights, okay, or novelists, the one who can write novels and poets. So there is no such guarantee that can ever be given. So that is also a myth and a reality. Any one of you, if you would like to reflect on the same, may please raise your hand. So no hand has been raised. It means like no one would like to participate. No one would like to reflect on the point that I'm being, discussing with you people. There is another myth about that writing is only meant for transforming or communicating ideas to the recipient. Although this is one of the objective or one of the purposes as we stated, that we would like to inform, okay? We would like to transfer or transmit knowledge or information to the other person. But see, this is also to some extent, it's quite debatable because this is how it is. Because we write something to transfer or to transmit knowledge to the recipient, to the receiver. But would it be every time when we write something, it is meant to inform and transmit some knowledge or information to the other person? So when we ask this question, then see, we come up with an answer that it is not. Like always, whenever we write something, it is meant to transmit some information or knowledge to the other person, to the receiver. Because sometimes through our writings, we also would like to explore something. You know how it is and why is it exploring something like when we write something creatively, we and the person, one of us, like who is quite interested and who understand that piece of writing, it might be rather something special to the style of that writer. It might also be something special to the contents of writing. Means वो जो contents लिख रहा है, जिस एस्पेक्ट लाइफ के जिस एस्पेक्ट के बारे में, सोसाइटी के किसी एस्पेक्ट के बारे में अगर वो लिख रहा है, तो बेटा इससे एक्सप्लोरेशन भी होती है, डिस्कवरीज भी होती हैं. जो रीड करता है उसे, वो लेटर ऑन ट्राइज टू थिंक अबाउट द सेम एस्पेक्ट, एंड दिस इज हाउ अ पर्सन मे बी एबल टू bring about, discover, or explore something new from the society, and how that person has been inclined or he got some inspiration or motivation. It is only through that piece of writing that one has been through. Means I read a novel some years back, and that novel was about the partition. Okay, Manto is the writer of that novel, Saadat Hassan Manto, who has written some very beautiful lines in that novel where he writes कि मैं रोज सुनता हूँ लोगों को ये कहते हुए कि आज इतने मुसलमान मर गए और आज इतने हिंदू मर गए. मैंने किसी से ये नहीं सुना कि कोई ये कहता हो कि आज इतने इंसान मर गए. When I read about these lines, I really like inspired by the personality. Although I thought of him, I read of him, I heard of him, people saying that he was a secular and a liberal kind of person. As a character, he was not a refined character. So there were some other bad practices that were involved to that person. He was tagged. So I never thought of reading something about that person previously. But then I thought of, this one expression of that person, inspired me a lot, that I need to think about that person. I need to read about the life of that person. And then see, I read a little about that person and I came to know about, I explored new things about that person, that he was not like the person portrayed. This is what my opinion is. And before our own studies, before our own research about any person or the thing, we cannot make out certain conclusions. हमें कुछ conclude तब तक नहीं करना चाहिए until otherwise we ourselves research about that person. So when I research, I thought of him like he was such a humanitarian, and see, he lived a miserable life somehow, like as far as his own character is concerned. But see, this has led me to explore something about that person. So as like some people say, it's only to transmit some knowledge or information to the people, and the reality is not only like it is always, writing is always to transmit some knowledge. It is also sometimes led a person or leads a person to explore or discover something new. And I just have shared my own personal experience, and this is how it is. So this is also one of the myths and realities about writing. Is that quite understandable to each one of you? बेटा आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? Salva has shared expressions and some other people. At least there is sign of people who are here with me, who are at least listening to something what I've been sharing with you people. There is another myth and a reality about, like, some people believe that writing is only a mean of communication with the other person. Some people believe, and people believe that this is a myth. Writing is only meant for a communication with other person only. I'm emphasizing. Whereas the reality is, it's not only meant for communication with other person, but the writer is the first person who reads before passing on, before communicating to another person. Writer is the first person who reads something. So although it is meant for communicating, interacting, passing on our information to the other person, but see, it's not only meant for this. Rather, it is meant for writer is the first reader. और वो राइटर जो हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे भी राइटर्स गुजरे हैं जिन्होंने अपनी जिंदगी में जो अपनी राइटिंग्स को दूसरों तक ट्रांसफर ही नहीं कर सके. They were unable to transfer their writings to other people. Like, I would like to give you one of the examples of one of the poets, a saintly man in Sindh, Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai Rahmatullah Alayh, one of the poets, one of the writers, or one of the, a mystic, and his poetry, something that he composed in his time, that was later on published, and then it was provided to for reading to all the other people later on, but see, not in his own time. So sometimes it is not only meant for like communication. The writer is the first reader of his or her own thoughts and ideas. Do you all believe with the same?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
At least मुझे ये yes or no सुनने के लिए कुछ आवाजें I just have been able to hear yes or no from some other part. People.
Sir, would you please repeat the last point you just shared?
The last point I was talking about, like the myth is, like some people believe that writing is only meant for communication, because communication is meant for transmitting or transferring your ideas to the other people. Whereas the reality is not exactly this, because writer is the first reader. It's not always something that you write something to communicate with others. We write our own personal writings. There are a number of examples. People write their personal diaries, and they're not supposed to be read by other people. It means it is an intrapersonal communication. You are communicating to yourself, not to some other people. And the other example, as I just have given about one of the poets of Sindh, Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai, whose writing were later on published in the form of a book, and then it was brought into the hands of the people. So that is also something related to, like it's not always meant for communication, but sometimes the writer itself, himself or herself, is the first reader. Is that clear to you? Now there is another myth about
Sir,
writing.
I would like to
Please,
contradict with you on this point.
please do contradict. I really welcome it.
Sir, see, you just gave the example of writing in a diary. Okay, all right. It is not for the, for the purpose of, we do not want any audience to read that. It is a communication between, it's an intrapersonal communication. But at the end, it is some type of communication, right? We are writing so that we could get our ideas clearly. So the purpose is still communication, isn't it?
Okay, communication in the the broader context, the meaning of communication is to pass on your information, your ideas to another person. Sharing, transmitting, transferring.
Right.
Okay, and there is like one person who might be as a speaker, and the other is the listener, and one is as a writer, the other is the reader, right? So when we look into this context, then you yourself has given like these writings are really personal to the person, and they are not supposed to be read by any other person. It means like it's not only meant for communication, but writer himself or herself is the first reader, whatever one has written about. Okay? I think now it is clear.
Yes, yes.
There is,
Thank you.
okay, okay, well, there is another thing like which is also considered as a myth. Some people believe that writing is permanent. On the other hand, the reality is it's not permanent. Now, what actually you understand how writing can be permanent and how it cannot be, and what does it mean, and what actually you understand why it is considered as a myth, like it is permanent. Any one of you?
Sir,
Yes, please.
those writing who cannot be changed is permanent writing. For example, a Holy Quran, it's not changeable, so it's permanent writing.
Okay, who is this?
Muhammad Siddiq, sir.
मोहम्मद सिद्दीक। चलें बेटा, दुनिया में कुरान पाक के अलावा कोई भी ऐसी किताब नहीं है which is not editable, or the sayings of the prophet as far as our religion is concerned or the religious teachings are concerned. Apart from this, there is no writing which is permanent. Okay, let me give you a very simple example. You might have heard about, because I've been giving examples from literature since I've been the student of literature. So mostly I prefer giving examples according to my own understanding and my information. Shakespeare has written a lot of plays, a number of plays, okay, in 16th century. The same play has been rewritten for several times. A number of writers has written the same play differently, different language, but the idea is the same. There might be the characters are the same, but it is rewritten. So as far as the writings are concerned, because we are talking about the different writings which are actually existing there in the society, and as far as we students are concerned, the academic writings and the professional or official writings. So we are studying everything in the same context, because that is the main aspect or the scope of our course, that we must be well aware of these writings. Another thing, there are different styles of writing. Previously, people write differently while following different styles. The different formats were there, but see, currently or in the contemporary world where we are living in, you must have seen there is a lot of modification, moderation as far as different styles or different writings are concerned. The manner is changed, the style is changed, the language is changed. The language in the 16th or the 17th century English was much difficult, much different than the language, English language that is spoken and written in the contemporary world, in today's world. It means that it is not always permanent Rather, it is changeable, it is editable, and it does, or people edit and reform. Even Shakespeare has written certain plays, and these plays were not his own creation. Let me tell you very frankly, means Hamlet, or there was another play, some other plays which Shakespeare has written. These were not originated or created Shakespeare by himself, because these plays were already written in some other ages by some other writers. So what actually Shakespeare did, he brought some modification, alteration, novelty, newness, and this is how he produced a new kind of writings to his audience of his time. And that is why we call, like, it is a myth, people saying that writing is permanent. So apart from the Holy Quran and the Holy Hadith of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as we Muslims, we believe that, see, these are unchangeable or uneditable, and there shall not be any alteration, and nobody can do this, because that has been guaranteed by the God himself, who is the creator of all creation. Am I clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dear students, would you please spare 1 or 2 minutes? I need to take a few sip of water, because my throat is like it is sticking, and see, I need to get it wet. So just be there with me for the next 2 minutes. Inshallah, I will be back within 2 minutes, right? Then we will continue. And the next myth or the reality about writing, it's about some people believe that language is the same, and same language, same style, same wordings can be used for whatever messages we would like to convey to whoever the audience or the receiver is. So this is just a myth. I don't believe, and neither the linguists believe in that. The reason being is because the reality is, for different purposes, we use different languages. For different audiences, we adopt different styles. For different people in different situations, we use different structures. We use different types of writing for various messages. बेटा किसी का माइक जो है वो अनम्यूट हो गया है, would you please put it on mute? I just would like to explain a little further on the same topic, that what I was talking about, and as we have been through the different types of writing, right away starting from a report, and then writing a letter to the editor, then writing a speech, then writing for persuasion, for argumentation, for explanation, for narration. Now see, for each these types of writing, we need to adopt a different register, a different style of language. For persuasion, our main purpose, our main focus is that we would like to put forward our opinion, although we are using a language in such a manner. Please, beta, go outside. But see, we understand that actually our main point, our main purpose is that we would like to put forward our opinion in a manner which must be convincing, because the end task that I would like to achieve through my writing is to convince my audience, to convince the people, right? Whereas when once I'm only destined to, or I'm inclined to inform, not to persuade, then see my writing must be very fairly plain, because the only purpose that I would like to write any composition is meant for sharing some point of view, sharing some information. तो बेटा जब हम information share करनी होती है तो we need to be plain, we need to be straightforward, we need to be simple. Whereas once I am trying to convince, then I need to be persuasive, then I need to be like using a number of other techniques as we studied. So one has become a myth, like same language, same style, same pattern, or same tone is to be adopted while writing any of the piece of writings. It is not a reality. On the other hand, as we have concluded, a reality is like for different situations, for different audiences, we need to adopt different styles, different structures, and different languages are to be used. Okay? So, beta, I believe that you must got to know like some of the myths and the realities about different piece of writings or different writings. Okay, and there are a few other myths and realities about writings. And since our time is about to over and our session, I would like to end the session over here. I will be sharing some a file on the same topic with you people for your better understanding. Or even that, I will also advise you people to research. आप research करें, just Google करें myths and realities about different writings. जब आप इस टॉपिक को रिसर्च करेंगे तो बल्कि बहुत बेहतर होगा कि आप इस पर एक असाइनमेंट बनाएं. So I give you the same task for writing an assignment. आप इस पर एक रिसर्च करें और मुख्तलिफ सोर्सेस के को आप ऑप्ट करेंगे. Obviously, something that I have explained to you people, I discussed, and there is a lot to know about from the different sources on internet. आप इस पर रिसर्च करके within 2 days मुझे अपनी असाइनमेंट सबमिट करवाएं, जिसमें जो डिफरेंट राइटिंग्स के बारे में रियलिटीज हैं और जो मिथ्स हैं आप उन्हें फोकस करेंगे और उनसे रिलेटेड जो आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है वो सिर्फ कॉपी पेस्ट ना हो. प्लीज बेयर इट इन माइंड, बिकॉज वंस आई विल बी रीडिंग आई विल बेटर अंडरस्टैंड कि आपका जो लेवल है एक्सप्रेशन का और जो आपका लेवल ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग है उसके अकॉर्डिंगली आपका असाइनमेंट जो है वो उसके साथ मैच करता है या नहीं करता. बिकॉज आई नो वेरी वेल ईच वन ऑफ यू एंड ईच वन ऑफ योर्स अंडरस्टैंडिंग, ठीक है, और स्टैंडिंग. सो बेयर इट इन माइंड that the purpose is not only to copy paste and do something Google searching. No, it should be that you would like to do some research for your own sake, you would like to learn something. तो उस पर्पस और उस माइंडसेट के साथ बेटा जब आप काम करेंगे so definitely you will be able to learn something about the myths and the realities about different or about writing. ठीक है, so this is the end of the session. तो मैंने तो बेटा कुछ और सोचा था. I planned before starting this session that today's session in today's session I would like to interact with you people, where you will be participating, where you will be discussing, sharing your point of view, and you will be objecting. किसी पॉइंट पर आप मुझसे आर्ग्यू करेंगे, कहीं पर आप मेरे पॉइंट को निगेट करेंगे, कहीं पर आप ये कहेंगे कि सर this is quite debatable and I don't totally agree with this point of view because whatever my understanding is, it is something contrary to something that you have been talking about. So but see, I am so demotivated by the responses of participants because there is no such response apart from only a few questions that were raised by some of just one or two students. and the rest of you are on silent mode. Okay, so I don't know the reason, but see, it's not your understanding. And as I've been telling you, बेटा ये आपके पास एक बहुत बड़ी opportunity है. आपको इवन स्क्रीन के सामने बोलने की आपकी प्रैक्टिस हो रही है, या आपको कॉन्फिडेंस डेवलप हो रहा है दैट दिस ही लेटर ऑन वंस यू विल बी, हो सकता है कल आपको आप इतने फेमस हो जाएं, इतने पॉपुलर हो जाएं कि आपके लोग इंटरव्यूज करें, ठीक है, और स्क्रीन के सामने बोलना ये भी एक स्किल है. तो ये एक बड़ा अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म है. ये हमेशा डाइवर्सिटी ब्रिंग्स यू नो लाइक नोवेलिटी. मेरी जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, डाइवर्सिटी कहते हैं चैलेंजिंग टाइम को. तो चैलेंजेस जो है वो इंसान की लाइफ में वो हमेशा कुछ प्रोड्यूस करते हैं, समथिंग न्यूनेस, वो नोवेलिटी लेकर आते हैं. तो लेट मी कंक्लूड यू, बिफोर दिस पेंडेमिक I never ever have such an exposure of delivering a lecture on online mode of communication. So initially on my very first day of lecture, it was something quite like abnormal for me. मुझे वो समझ नहीं आ रहा था how should I continue with my lecture, ठीक है, because I was never ever used to of it. लेकिन अब 1 साल की प्रैक्टिस हो गई है. अब आप मुझे 5 घंटे भी बिठा दें यहाँ पर, इंशाल्लाह I will be able to continue with and keep on saying, keep on discussing and explaining something that is a part of our syllabus. तो ये कैसे हुआ बेटा? ये कैसे हुआ? इसीलिए because that was something new for us. Initially एक चीज जब न्यू होती है तो it takes time to get familiar. लेकिन आप नहीं चाहते तो then that is another point. But if you would like to, and I must suggest you, advise you that you must be able to come before the screen and say something. At least आखिर में बेटा मैं आपसे एक प्रेजेंटेशन जरूर लूंगा जो between 3 to 5 minutes की प्रेजेंटेशन होगी हर बच्चे की. और मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ आपके सेशनल मार्क्स में हमेशा उस प्रेजेंटेशन की परफॉर्मेंस पर देता हूँ मैक्सिमम मार्क्स, ठीक है. तो उसकी प्रैक्टिस अगर आप पहले कर लेंगे तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, बिकॉज यू नीड टू बी ऑन स्क्रीन व्हाइल प्रेजेंटिंग योरसेल्फ, व्हाइल एक्सप्लेनिंग, सेइंग समथिंग बिटवीन 2 to 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes. So that is the reason it is much advisable to each one of you to practice it beforehand, ठीक है. So till the next week, अभी किसी स्टूडेंट ने मैसेज किया है कि सर 2 days कम है, तो बेटा 2 days कम नहीं है, इसमें 48 hours है और आपकी 2 क्लासेज होती हैं, उसके बाद सारा दिन आप फारिग होते हैं. यू आर एट ईज, यू आर सपोज टू बी एट योर होम. तो आप रिसर्च करें, 5-6 घंटे इस पर लगाएं और प्रोडक्टिव काम करके मुझे दें, ठीक है. सो आई होप टू सी यू इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट वीक. टिल देन I must say Allah Hafiz to all of you. Take care of you, your family, and the people living in your neighborhood and everyone in your surrounding. So inshallah, and do pray for all the people, okay? And inshallah see you in the next week. Till then, I once again say Allah Hafiz. Now you all can see, this little fellow has been disturbing me. आप जाएं बेटा. इंशाल्लाह सी यू नेक्स्ट वीक. अल्लाह हाफिज.
खुदा हाफिज.